you when it's time. Welcome, a warm welcome to John Stepper and our guest today. And we will have to talk to him about, does open sharing will change how we will work in the future? So, welcome, John.
Thank you. It's nice to see you, Mona.
Good to see you too. So I think we met now in person 2 times this year. So, and before it was COVID, and we met in Wolf-Frauenstärken first time. Yeah, it's now 3 years ago. Yeah. And I hope, because you are sitting in New York now, it's very early, but I see sun is out for you.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to go. I've been looking forward to
it. Ready to go? Fantastic. So before we start talking about working out loud, let's talk about you, John.
Uh-oh.
Could you please introduce yourself with 5 hashtags?
Ooh. Let's see. Yeah, my 5 hashtags. So let's see. I'm German, Italian, Japan. These are the 3 countries that have influenced me. My grandparents came from Germany and from Italy, and my wife is from Japan.
Wow.
5 kids, and New York City, where I grew up in the Bronx, and I've been here my entire life.
Wow. So 5 things I guess nobody knew before. And now we can go a little bit more in detail. So about you, John. So you said you are half German, half Italian, and but you lived your whole life in New York. What have you done before you came up with the idea of working out loud?
My career, I studied computer science a long time ago, before the internet. And my career was really like playing career roulette, in that it was just coincidence and serendipity that led me from one place to another. So looking back, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't something that was purpose driven or even John driven. It was just a series of opportunities that popped up that led me to work in banks. Mostly, I worked at Deutsche Bank for a long time. I worked in investment banks. I worked on trading floors. None of that I had imagined. None of that I had planned. But 30 years of working in big companies helped me to see both what was wrong with them, and also the potential for how we could change it and make the experience better for people. So it was a good education in both systems, organizational design, but also in people.
Yeah. So and this was the point where you choose to, okay, what can I do better? What can I do differently?
Well, my own motivation was, after I've been at Deutsche Bank for 14 years, something like that, maybe 15, and my career, which had been doing beautifully, all of a sudden wasn't doing so beautifully. And what I noticed is that there was a lot of fear and defensiveness, a lot of anxiety, a lot of suffering, including my own. And it struck me, here I was in this place where there was plenty of money. People made a lot of money. There's a lot of money flowing through. It was a global company with a ton of opportunities. And yet somehow it still didn't feel good. And so first for myself and then for other people, I tried to come up with a way that you could make more out of work. You could make more of the gifts that you had without waiting for a good boss or a good project, without playing career roulette anymore.
Yeah. So this was the time then when you experienced with some of the techniques, so of social learning methods.
It started back in 2010, 2011. So again, I was a technologist, and I thought that Facebook was 4 years old then, right? Social media was new-ish, and I thought if we had that kind of tool at work, then that would be very liberating for people. Then they could show their work, shape their reputation. So I thought technology was the answer, and we introduced a social intranet, a social networking platform in the bank.
Yeah.
Kind of one of the first ones. We had something like 80,000 people use it, and it was good in that we got that many people to use it, but I could see that technology was, and it looks obvious now, technology was not enough. People were afraid of what they could say. They didn't have the confidence to share their work. They were afraid they might get in trouble. They didn't have the habits of doing it. And so I said, well, here's this great tool. What's a way that we can help people experience the benefits, not just evangelize the power of these tools, but help them experience the benefits of being a bit more visible and being more connected.
Yeah. So, and then it came to go away from the tools, and then connect to the people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. People are busy. So if just showing them some tool, they already had plenty of tools. They didn't want another one. And it took me a while, but I learned to shift very quickly into what is the benefit for them? Why would this be useful or helpful for them in their careers? And even then, even if they believed you, they just don't have the habits. So that's what convinced me early on. It's like 2012 that this had to be learning over time. This had to be practice over time. It wasn't something I could just write in a book or something that you could teach in a workshop. It was something they had to experience for themselves.
Yeah, that's true. So say that every person had to experience and to learn over time is what everybody of us feels and shares everywhere. So because this is what we also feel and experience as a benefit, to do it in small chunks, learning, and because everyone has time for an hour, for example, a week. Yeah.
And even that proves a challenge. So the other ingredient, besides small steps practiced over time, is to do it with other people.
Yes.
And again, none of these ingredients are new, but when we put them together, because originally I was doing one-on-one coaching, and that was okay, but there was something more compelling about having small groups practice together. They gave you structure, like, hey, we're going to meet every Friday.
Yes.
It gave you shared accountability that I really don't want to go to the gym today, but Mona's going to go and she's waiting for me. So I would be more likely to take that step, and support, so that if I was afraid of doing something or uncomfortable with one of the steps to take, then this psychologically safe space, this circle of of people would help me. And that was the way to make progress.
Yeah. So there is a first comment from Daniela. She says, that's what makes us humans, that we learn from each other and with each other.
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Daniela. Yeah, of course that's true, right? If there's something interesting about what we did, is to create this safe space in the workplace. So most workplace training is delivered at you.
Yes.
And it tends to be, and it's fine. There's a place for that, right? Okay, here's project management training. Go to the class, watch the videos, whatever it might be. All of that's fine. But when it comes to developing yourself and changing your behaviors, that necessarily needs time and practice. And because it's uncomfortable, if you could create that safe space so you're not worried about who's looking at you or what your grade might be or what the manager might say about, carving out that safe space at work has turned out to be the most important thing we've done.
Yeah. So, and you have the experience with now so far with a lot of different kind of people, with a lot of different kind of branches, I guess. So who should apply to it? Is there a branch you say, no, that's not possible for them, or is it possible for everyone?
So
what is your experience so far?
in the beginning, some people thought of working out loud as a kind of a religion because it attracted a certain kind of person who was open and curious and excited about working in small groups, particularly something that wasn't driven from the top. And it was great. So it felt kind of like a movement and had a nice spirit.
Yeah.
And that's still true. And I didn't want to limit it to just those people who I wanted to help anybody in the workplace.
Yeah.
And so what we found is when you ask, who's it for? It's for the new joiner who doesn't know anybody at work. It's hybrid workplace. And they're looking for tools that can help them develop, but also help them build relationships at work. Great. They would be a great candidate for a Working Out Loud circle. It's for diversity groups, female empowerment groups like Frauenstarken. I know you're going to talk to Katarina next week. So that people can tap into the support of other people like them. Talent development, emerging leaders. A lot of our customers, every year they'll have a new cohort of younger people learning leadership skills. And this gives them a tool, again, this psychologically safe space where they can develop skills over time that they won't find somewhere else. So I'm really trying to reach more and more people throughout the workplace, whether they're on the shop floor or they're in the talent program and trying to, go higher in their career.
What I hear very often now from you is the psychological space. So, and I think this is one main point, so that everybody who joins these circles has a psychological safety room, because they can experience and learn with others and do it.
Yeah, absolutely. What people will remember from their circle is the feeling they had of trust and caring that they cultivated with strangers. So time and time again, you'd have people in maybe 5 different cities around the world, very different cultures, different backgrounds, different goals, and they grow to be friends, and it's pretty quickly, like an hour a week. And that experience, this is one of the nicest things about it. So, you use Working Out Loud to accomplish a goal, to make progress. You use it to build your network, use it to develop other skills. Great. But there's this kind of meta learning. And the two things I hope people take away is that as an individual, that they have much more to offer than they thought.
Mm-hmm.
So that it helps them, gives them a bit of confidence to tap into, realize more of their potential, tap into more of what they have to offer. And the second is that if you read the news, the world could be a pretty horrifying place.
Mm-hmm.
But when they have this experience of, hey, here are 4 strangers, and they're wonderful, and this giving and receiving that happens within the circle feels so good and so natural that a lot of circles will just keep meeting like years later.
Yes.
And I think that's a very uplifting, positive experience. It says, you know what, the world may be a horrifying place at times, but there are a lot of good people in it. I just met 4 of them. And here's a way that we can have a more open, generous, collaborative exchange, either in the workplace or outside.
Yeah. So I read that you did a session with HR people in Germany.
Yeah.
Or was it all over the world?
It was with BPM, which is a long German name, but an association of HR managers, and about 750 of them joined working out circles.
So how was their experience with it? So for them, it is, they could use it for several, as you just said, for several steps in their journey, to bring in the people, to stay with the people, and they can lock it into their work. And because I think it's very difficult to step in with working out loud into big companies. So maybe there are some tricks, techniques. Is HR the first step into a company, or are there several entries into a company to convince them how good it is? Or are this the people you talked before who are so the early adopters and they bring it into the company?
Yeah,
Normally.
That's an interesting question. We used to think it would be the second one, that you would have fans, people who experienced the method and said, hey, our company could really use this. But it turns out, and sometimes that worked, but it turns out that, at some point, the company needs to invest in it. And what I mean by that, they need to recognize that this is work.
Yes.
And this, it's not just a nice to have for people who have free time. And so what we learned over the past few years was, if you approach HR and you get their support early on, that normalizes it. This isn't about, oh, we have to work out loud. Like the company doesn't care about that. The company has problems that they already recognize, and here working out loud is a method to help them with those problems. So that is liberating in a sense, that if they use it in an onboarding program or a talent program or a female empowerment program or a cultural change program,
Yes,
then everyone's used to that. They know why they're doing it. Time is already made for it. There's already a budget for it. And we found that's the most productive way, the most efficient way to reach more people and to make them feel like this is absolutely relevant and practical for work, not just some method that you need to try.
Yeah. So this is something the people, they should first experience it, how it works, to see that this is something they could use for several stages. And then it's a solution for their problems.
Since then, since the first method, which I've been working on this for 10 years, and that first method has evolved quite a bit. There's less social media now. It's more workplace friendly. But then we also developed one for teams, for team collaboration, particularly for hybrid teams. Either they're across locations or they're not in the office. We developed one for wellness. It's called Resilience.
For wellness?
Yeah, well, because
inner wellness, or what do you mean by wellness?
So a lot of what we know about what makes human beings thrive has been well researched and well studied, but it's sitting in books. And like we talked about, to actually change your habits and behavior, it takes time.
Yes.
So what I did was we took what's in the research and applied positive psychology, what we know about what makes people happier and more adaptive, more resilient, and we put that into a method. It's 8 weeks, but it's the same formula. You meet in a small group of 4 or 5 people. You follow a structured curriculum. So there's a sense of guided mastery. You're building skills, and it's an hour a week for 8 weeks. So you get to practice over time with other people, and that, that'll have a more sustainable impact than just going to a workshop for a day or watching a video or whatever it might be.
So yes, it's the sustainable way. Right.
Yeah.
Agreed. And another thing from Rodney said, she loved the conversation and the point that people might recognize new ways of working, and that it's not a fun side hustle.
Right. Why is it that certain behaviors in the workplace have persisted for so long, even when we know they're not very good? Well, it's because people look around and they see what other managers are doing and other colleagues. And so these behaviors just persist. It's almost like a tradition that's passed on, even though we know it's not good. And so in your circle, you experience a different way. So there isn't that sense of defensiveness or fear or anxiety. It's just the opposite. You're like, okay, there is an alternative way of working. I just may not have seen it a lot, but I know now that it's possible because I've experienced it for myself, and I would much rather work that way.
So hearing this is, we should experience, much more people should experience that there are different ways and other ways we can work or could work together. We should only do it. So we should establish these kind of circles. And as you said, everyone could do it. Every company could do, if they want, if they are open enough.
And what we've tried to do, sometimes companies just start with, it may just be 25 people.
Yes.
And that's okay. Every person counts. Our biggest customer is approaching 10,000 people, which is now like that's a village, right? That you've changed, and they're in 50 countries. So any progress is good. It's comforting to know that this can scale in terms of spreading across the company and cultures. But I'm happy to start with a small cohort. Again, could be new joiners, it could be diversity group, could be talent, and then even a group of 25. Those are 25, potential change agents, and there's a nice ripple effect.
Yes.
If we can change how they work, then we can change how the people around them work.
Yeah, that's true. So some people then counts to thousands, and because this is something like a flash mob.
I would like to think so. That would be great.
So what are your next steps for Working Out Loud? Are there special projects you're on, or is there anything you like to do? What are your thoughts, your inspirations for the future?
Two different projects come to mind. They're very different.
Oh.
One is, did you ever come across the book? It's called Working. It was by Studs Terkel, 1973, 50 years ago. And he was just a beautiful book. People talked about what they did for work and how they felt. And it was so gripping because these were everyday jobs. And it captured that sense of humanity, or humanity that was lost at times in the workplace. Mm-hmm. So computers were just coming into vogue, and people felt like, I'm just a cog in the machine. I don't get recognized, right? Basic human needs for a little bit of control, right, for growing, for relatedness, connections. And people weren't getting that at work. That's 50 years ago. Things have not changed.
No, that's true.
So what I'm working on now is another method for operational workers. So that's not just people in an office, trying to use LinkedIn to build their network.
Yeah.
It's for people on the shop floor,
mm-hmm,
or in the retail store, or in a hospital.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes.
And we've done multiple pilots already, and now we're we are customizing the method for those companies so that it's really tailored to the company and the kind of work that those people do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's shorter and it's simpler, but it's the same goal, which is, can we help anybody, even if they're in a highly constrained job? You're a barista at Starbucks, you work at the cashier at IKEA.
Mm-hmm.
Can we help them to have more good days at work? Can we help them to experience a sense of self-determination, of feeling alive at work? Not as a trick, not as a, as something to get them to do more work, but as a way to, flip a switch in their head that says, look, here's the job I need to do, but I still have some choices about how I do it.
Yes.
And those choices can affect how I feel and how the people around me feel. And so that work to me
Mm-hmm.
is feels like a calling, because there's a lot of suffering in the workplace. These people have very tough jobs. And if we can help them to have a better experience at work, even a little bit, then that would be work worth doing.
That's great. And I'm sure everybody is keen to learn more about the outcome of your projects. So will you promote them?
You can count on that. I will promote them. There was a study done, and it's not published yet, but it's about to be published, and it was by a professor and a PhD student in Berlin.
Okay.
And they studied the Frauenstocken data.
Yeah.
So, and what they found is two things. One, that there was absolutely a shift in working out loud behaviors like knowledge sharing, collaboration, which we expect. Great. And that change was sustainable. So it persisted
Mm-hmm.
after the circle ended. Great. But they also found, this is the thing that they were excited about, why they wrote the paper. It'll appear in a journal soon, which was a shift in psychological empowerment. This kind of inner sense of the control that I have. And for these researchers, if you can move the needle on psychological empowerment, then that has a lot of other effects. Yeah. And I think that's really what we're doing. We're helping people realize there's a lot more to me. There's a lot more that I have to offer. And I have choices that can determine my experience, good or bad, throughout the day, that can affect me and also affect other people. And I think, we talk a lot about companies and the workplace and HR. I'm doing this first and foremost for the individual, but those benefits absolutely are what the companies are looking for as well. Yeah,
but these benefits, if the individual sees and feels the benefit for themselves, and they see and feel that they can get these benefits also from their companies, I think this will put the needle for the company and for the people much higher.
Right. And this, whenever you walk into a store or you walk into a meeting, if someone feels alive and enthused and confident versus not, that affects everything, right? So I think we can help people as individuals in ways that the companies would find extremely valuable.
So when I hear all these things and we see our question from the beginning, can we change something with our openness? Yes, we can, right?
Absolutely. And openness, sometimes people take the name working out loud and they focus on the loud part.
No.
And it doesn't have to be that. You don't have to do something that's not authentic to you. You don't have to necessarily be public about it, but it could just be with that circle. It could just be could just be you and me, that I'm sharing something of myself that I may not ordinarily share, but I'm doing it with you. And that those exchanges build trust and a sense of relatedness with people. And they also unlock access to opportunities and possibilities. Yes. And that's what I'm going for. It doesn't have to be public and on social media. It could just be one-on-one. It could be in person. It could be an email. But this exchange, this very human giving and receiving, can unlock a lot of potential for the individual and collectively. Yes.
Absolutely. And John, what do you think? So half an hour is nearly gone.
I don't know how that's possible. I just noticed the time. I said this was my first LinkedIn Live, and so I'm very grateful for that. But it flew by, and I'm ready for another one. Let's go.
Another one. But next week, guess what? We will have Katharina Krenz.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that'll be great.
We can meet next year, John, because it was so fantastic talking to you. I thank you so much. And when you're back in Germany next time, just say hi.
I will make Frankfurt my destination for sure. Mona, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend, and